Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. It began like any other year at the US Mint, rows of polished dies, gleaming blanks stacked like tiny metal soldiers, and machines humming in unison with the quiet efficiency of tradition. But 1978 was not just another year in American coinage. It marked the end of one era and hinted at the beginning of another, all told through a humble coin that weighed just 3.11 grams and measured less than an inch in diameter. A coin so common in circulation, so frequently dismissed, and yet, to those who knew where to look, it was a gateway to history, mystery, and value. This was the 1978 Lincoln 1-cent penny. The coin itself may have seemed ordinary at first glance. On one side, Abraham Lincoln's solemn profile faced right, just as it had for decades. His gaze, sculpted with incredible precision by Victor David Brenner back in 1909, still captured something timeless: dignity, resilience, and wisdom carved into copper. Yet, beneath the surface of that familiar portrait, the world was changing, and so was American money. 1978 would be the final year that the penny would be struck with its original 95% copper composition before the looming shift to a copper-plated zinc core in 1982. That fact alone gave the 1978 penny an invisible but significant weight. It was the last of the true copper Lincoln cents, a closing chapter in a story that had run uninterrupted since the days of Theodore Roosevelt. A few more copper coins would be struck in later years, but none would carry the distinction of being the last full production year of the original bronze alloy in both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. The Philadelphia Mint, always the workhorse of American coinage, struck hundreds of millions of 1978 pennies, their surfaces gleaming with the warm red hue of fresh copper when newly minted. They bore no mintmark, as was the tradition for Philadelphia cents at the time. Their counterparts in Denver, struck with a bold D just below the date, mirrored them in quantity and intent, though a keen collector would always find subtle distinctions in strike sharpness, die wear, and planchet quality. But sheer mintage numbers were only the start of the story. In the realm of collecting, not all 1978 pennies are created equal. While billions were produced, 5.56 billion from Philadelphia and over 4.28 billion from Denver, surviving examples in pristine, uncirculated condition are far rarer than the mintage would suggest. Time, corrosion, and circulation have dulled their luster, smoothed their surfaces, and left only a handful in mint state grades worthy of the keenest collector's attention. The hunt for high-grade specimens, those that earn an MS-66, MS-67, or, on rare occasions, an MS-68 grade, has become something of an obsession. And then there are the errors. Like hidden messages whispered through the chaos of mass production, the 1978 penny was no stranger to quirks. Some were struck with double dies, slight but unmistakable shifts in the lettering of "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself. These doubling errors, though not as famous as the 1955 or 1969's variations, carried their own intrigue. Some pennies bore off-center strikes, giving the coin an uncanny appearance, as if Abraham Lincoln was slipping off the canvas of history. Others displayed die breaks, cuts, and clash marks, each a small anomaly that turned a mass-produced object into a unique collectible. In back rooms of coin shops and glass displays at coin shows, collectors would pull out velvet trays lined with these 1978 cents, scrutinizing them with magnifying lenses and keen eyes. The goal was simple: find the perfect one. Not just a shiny one, not just a red one, but a penny with flawless surfaces, razor-sharp details, and no trace of wear or handling. A coin that looked as if it had just emerged from the dies seconds ago. There were rumors, of course. Stories whispered across numismatic forums and swap meets. One man claimed he found a 1978 penny struck on a dime planchet, tiny, silver-colored, and astonishingly valuable. Another reported a 1978 Philadelphia cent with a clipped planchet error, its edge carved out in a perfect crescent. These error coins, though often overlooked in pocket change, became the stuff of legends in coin circles. Some turned up in auctions, fetching hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Others vanished into private collections, their value appreciated by only a select few. The Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparro, remained steadfast in its presence. From 1959 to 2008, it anchored the design of the 1-cent piece, with its intricate pillars and tiny statue of Lincoln barely visible inside. Yet even here, subtle variations emerged. Weak strikes left the statue barely visible, while die deterioration could soften the steps and columns into a blur. The finest examples maintained every line with crisp definition, a true test of the die and planchet quality. As coin grading companies like PCGS and NGC rose in influence, the 1978 penny entered a new chapter. No longer was its value decided purely by eye or tradition. Now, every flaw could be measured, every detail assessed under standardized lighting and magnification. Coins in MS-65 red were considered respectable. MS-66, elite. MS-67, a treasure. And when an MS-68 example appeared, almost unheard of, it was met with gasps, fierce bidding, and prices that far exceeded the expectations for a mere penny. But why did this simple coin matter so much? Because it was a snapshot of a nation in transition. The 1970s had been a decade of upheaval, war, resignation, inflation, gas shortages, disco, rebellion, and rebirth. The penny, unchanged in design, bore silent witness to it all. It was used in phone booths to call home. It was taped over turntables to stop the vinyl from skipping. It lay beneath couch cushions, wedged in car ashtrays, and given as allowance to kids who barely noticed the man on its face. And yet, through all of it, it endured. Now, decades later, those same pennies are seen with new eyes. No longer everyday currency, they are tokens of memory and mystery. What once paid for candy now sparks bidding wars. What once sat forgotten in a drawer may now gleam under display lights at a coin convention, protected by plastic and proof, and the question, as always, lingers, just how valuable is the 1978 penny? The answer depends on which version you hold. A circulated coin may still be worth just a cent. But a pristine MS-67 red example from Philadelphia or Denver can command well over $500. Add an error, a rare off-metal strike, a dramatic misalignment, a deep die clash, and that number can surge to over $2,000 or more. It all depends on the details, the condition, and the story the coin tells through its metal skin. But even beyond the numbers, beyond the auction houses and grading labels, the 1978 penny holds value in what it represents. It is the last full breath of copper before the alloy changed forever. It is a survivor of time, economy, and culture. It is history you can hold between two fingers, and perhaps, most importantly, it reminds us that even the smallest things, overlooked, dismissed, forgotten, can carry stories worth far more than their weight in metal. There's something quietly magnetic about the way a penny reflects light when it hasn't yet been dulled by time. In its uncirculated state, the copper gleams like fire caught in metal. A 1978 penny fresh from the mint still holds that glow, a luster that collectors refer to as red, a condition that signifies the coin has retained most of its original copper brilliance. Not just a color, but a grade-defining element. Red is prized. Red is rare. The moment oxidation begins, the coin shifts toward red-brown, and eventually into full brown, and while each tone has its own charm, only those initial, untouched hues of red stir the excitement of collectors hoping to capture perfection from a past long gone. In small towns and large cities, across garage sales and estate auctions, cigar boxes have been opened to reveal old coin folders, some filled, some half-complete, with 1978 cents sitting silently in their slots, often overlooked. But a trained eye knows what to search for. Not just the date and mint mark, but the subtle things, die rotation, a crack across the field, or a doubling of Lincoln's ear. These tiny signs, unnoticed by most, are the very elements that can shift a penny from common to coveted. Among the most talked about pieces from the 1978 penny lineage are those with misaligned dies. These coins, struck slightly off-center due to improper die alignment, showcase Lincoln's bust shifted either too far left or right. In some cases, part of the design is missing altogether. Collectors love these coins because each one is unique, no two off-center strikes are exactly the same. Some are barely noticeable, a whisper of deviation. Others are dramatic, with the rim intruding deep into the portrait, transforming the coin into a visual anomaly. And anomalies, in the world of numismatics, often mean value. Then there are the broad-struck errors, coins that were struck without the collar that normally holds the metal in place. Without that guiding constraint, the metal spreads out, giving the coin a wide, almost swollen appearance. It's as if the penny tried to grow beyond its limits. A 1978 broad-strike error is a rare find, and when paired with a flawless surface and rich red tone, it becomes a prize worthy of headlines in coin auction catalogs. One of the most elusive and legendary varieties tied to the 1978 penny involves a phantom, the whispers of a transitional planchet. Some believe that a few Lincoln cents from this year may have been mistakenly struck on leftover planchets intended for foreign coins or other denominations. Though unconfirmed in most circles, stories persist of pennies that ring differently, weigh slightly less, or appear off in color. The hunt for these mythical coins continues to this day, fueled by passion, rumor, and the occasional strange find that defies easy classification. In the broader arc of coin collecting, the 1978 penny holds a unique position. It sits at the edge of a precipice, the last firm step before the industry changed course. After 1978 came 1979 and 1980, years that still used the bronze composition but increasingly leaned toward cost-saving experiments. By 1982, the copper core set was largely gone, replaced with a cheaper zinc version plated in copper. The coins looked the same but felt different in both weight and soul. Those who held a 1978 penny alongside a post-1982 version could feel the difference immediately. One was dense, warm, real. The other, lighter, almost hollow by comparison. That shift, invisible to most, was monumental to collectors. It meant that every 1978 cent, each coin struck before the alloy was changed, was part of a disappearing world. Young collectors often begin their journey with Lincoln cents. It's a tradition passed down like a family story. And inevitably, in every blue Whitman folder or green Dansko album, there comes that slot marked 1978P and 1978D. For some, these are the first coins they plug into place. For others, they become the missing pieces needed to complete a lifelong pursuit. And for the truly devoted, the goal isn't just to fill the slot, but to fill it with the best possible example, full red, no marks, struck with precision. There's a rhythm to this chase. The early morning spent checking pocket change, the weekend drives to coin shows, the endless online searches for 1978 MS67RD. Every collector has a story, one about the coin they found in the most unexpected place. A grandfather's toolbox. A parking lot. The bottom of a piggy bank untouched for decades. And when that coin turns out to be a 1978 penny with a mirror-bright field and a razor-sharp strike, the feeling is electric. Not just because of the coin's value, but because of what it represents. A connection to something lasting. A story caught in metal. Even coin dealers, hardened by years of sorting, pricing, and selling, feel a quiet thrill when an especially sharp 1978 cent crosses their desk. They hold it up to the light, tilt it just so, and nod with appreciation. The coin speaks to them. It tells a story not just of when it was made, but of everything that has happened since. The oil crises. The end of disco. The dawn of the tech age. A penny that survived it all, untouched, and what of the value? Here's where the drama builds. While most circulated 1978 cents remain worth a cent, maybe 2 or 3 if you're lucky, those in pristine mint state condition are a different matter entirely. A certified MS66 red from PCGS might fetch $75 to $100, depending on the demand. An MS67 red, much harder to find, can soar past $400. And for the rarest of the rare, the top-graded survivors, an MS68 example becomes a unicorn in copper, potentially worth over $1,500 to the right buyer. Add an error or a striking anomaly, and those numbers rise even higher. Auction houses have seen bidding wars erupt over coins most would consider common. But within that commonality lies the magic, the possibility that a coin held in everyday hands could become a star. And isn't that the essence of collecting? Taking the ordinary and discovering the extraordinary within it. In the endless flow of everyday life, there are moments that pass unnoticed, a flicker of copper caught in a cash register tray, a soft clink into a tip jar, a penny sliding quietly beneath a car seat. But not every coin is just spare change. Sometimes, nestled within the ordinary, lies the unexpected. A secret, a story, a treasure hiding in plain sight. And that's exactly where the 2018 DUSA 1-cent penny enters the scene. To most, it's just another Lincoln cent. But to collectors, hunters, and those who understand the language of coins, it's a gateway into a deeper world. The year was 2018. America stood in the digital age, where apps replaced wallets and physical cash was quickly becoming an afterthought. Yet even in this high-speed world of virtual payments, the U.S. Mint continued its duty, quietly striking billions of coins that would pass from hand to hand, generation to generation. At the Denver Mint, located in the heart of Colorado, the presses roared to life, producing what seemed like yet another massive wave of pennies. Billions of them. But among the countless copper-plated zinc discs, a few stood out. Whether by accident, intention, or anomaly, they would go on to ignite curiosity and become objects of pursuit. The 2018 D penny bears all the hallmarks of modern design. On its obverse stands Abraham Lincoln, his bust rendered with refined detail, an enduring image first introduced in 1909. By now, his familiar profile had become one of the most reproduced faces in the world. But in 2018, there was something cleaner, sharper, almost digital about the way his features appeared. The Denver Mint's striking quality had improved over the decades, giving Lincoln's expression a fresh clarity, even if the design itself was over a century old. The phrase, "In God We Trust," arcs across the top, "Liberty" rests on the left, and the date, 2018, sits proudly at the right, just above the unmistakable D mint mark. Turn the coin over, and you're met with the shield design, a relative newcomer to the penny's legacy. First introduced in 2010, this reverse design replaced the long-standing Lincoln Memorial reverse that had defined the coin since 1959. The shield itself symbolizes unity and strength, echoing the Union preservation for which Lincoln is forever remembered. Across the shield, a scroll bears the inscription, "1 cent," bold and unmistakable. Above it, "United States of America," is emblazoned in firm type. Below, "E pluribus unum," out of many, 1.to the average person. The 2018 D penny might not demand a second glance. It doesn't shout its rarity. It doesn't glimmer like silver or gleam like gold. It's quiet. But within its modern minting are countless layers, stories of technology, precision, economics, and even mystery, because here's the twist, among the billions of 2018 D pennies struck, there are those that aren't quite like the others. Errors, varieties, and anomalies began surfacing not long after the coins hit circulation. Collectors and YouTubers posted videos, zooming in on microscopic details, doubled dies on Lincoln's ear, misaligned strikes, off-center impressions, and ghost-like floating elements. And it didn't stop there. A batch of 2018 D pennies showed what numismatists call die clash marks, artifacts from the obverse and reverse dies striking each other without a planchet in between. These marks left ghostly remnants, strange lines and patterns, creating coins with eerie beauty. Each flaw, unintentional yet precise, turned an otherwise common penny into a one-of-a-kind discovery. Even more intriguing were the reports of 2018 D pennies with grease-filled die errors. In these, parts of the coin's design were missing, softened or altogether absent, because of debris or grease filling the die's details. Liberty would appear faint, or Lincoln's face would look slightly smudged, his eye sunken, his jawline fading. Such errors weren't the product of artistic intent, but mechanical imperfection. And that imperfection is what drove collectors wild. The U.S. Mint's increasing production demands only heightened the possibility for such missteps. Over 6.3 billion pennies were minted in Denver that year alone. That's over 20 coins per U.S. citizen, just from one mint. With such overwhelming output, even a tiny percentage of errors translated to thousands of potentially collectible coins, if you knew what to look for. Meanwhile, grading companies began receiving a flood of submissions. Collectors were eager to see how their 2018 D cents would hold up under scrutiny. Coins that came back with a mint state 65 or 66 grade were considered solid, but those few that scored MS 67 or above, those were stars. In a world of billions, the truly flawless became worth hundreds, sometimes more. PCGS population reports revealed the rarity. MS-68 red examples were exceedingly scarce, and when they did appear at auction, they often sparked bidding wars. It wasn't just about condition, it was about survival. How many coins could go from the mint, through shipping, sorting, handling, and distribution, and still remain perfect? Then came the discoveries that fueled legend. A penny with an incomplete strike, missing elements on the reverse, yet perfectly centered on the obverse. Another with a planchet flaw, a deep gouge that had somehow escaped quality control. A third with doubling in Lincoln's eye, so subtle, it required magnification, but once seen, could not be unseen, and in late 2021, one story made waves. A collector in Texas claimed to have found a 2018 D penny with a deep obverse die break, nicknamed Lincoln's Scar. The break cut across Lincoln's cheek like a war wound, dramatic and impossible to ignore. The coin quickly gained attention on online forums and was submitted to a grading service. The result? $58 Australian, but the error was so bold that it still fetched over $900 in a private sale. Suddenly, the hunt was on for more scarred Lincolns. But the value of the 2018 D penny isn't confined to errors and pristine grades. Sometimes, its power lies in story and sentiment. Parents handed them to children as their first coins to collect. Teachers used them in classrooms to teach about presidents and symbols. Soldiers carried them overseas as a piece of home. And every time a collector held one, flipped it in their fingers, examined the details with care, it became more than just currency. It became a conversation with time. Coin shops began to feature 2018 D errors in small velvet cases. Online auctions lit up with listings, some real, some exaggerated. But the excitement was real. And as more people learned what to look for, the more they began to understand that a penny isn't always just a penny. Sometimes, it's a puzzle, a mystery, a piece of a much larger story waiting to be told. So now we ask the question burning on every collector's mind: how much is a 2018 D penny really worth? If it's a regular circulated coin, its face value is a cent, and its melt value is even less. But if it's a mint state coin, graded MS-67 red or higher, now you're looking at $150, $500, depending on the market and grade population. And if it's an error, an off-center strike, a retained cud, a dramatic die clash, or one of the famous Lincoln Scar examples, your coin could be worth hundreds or more, with the right buyer. But perhaps the most valuable 2018 D penny isn't the one locked in a slab or showcased under glass. Perhaps it's the one someone finds in their pocket, their child's first discovery, or a hidden gem pulled from a roll during a late-night hunt. Because value isn't always measured in dollars. Sometimes it's measured in wonder, and so the 2018 D penny remains, quietly spinning through the world, waiting for someone to look close enough to see the story within.